The sound of fire and metal filled the night sky of the colony. The air smelled of smoke and the ground shook with each blast from the distant battlefield. The human soldier Daniel pressed his back against a broken wall, his pulse racing as he scanned the ruined streets. His unit had been ordered to retreat, but his feet had not followed the command. Something in the burning colony had made him stay behind. Daniel had been fighting for months, moving from one world to another in a war that seemed endless. Most of the time, the faces of the people he fought for blurred together in his memory, but that night felt different. The cries carried on the wind were not the cries of soldiers. They were the cries of civilians, and among them was the thin, sharp voice of a child. He gritted his teeth and stepped forward, ignoring the voice of his commander that still echoed in his head. "Fall back, soldier. That's an order." Orders meant survival. Disobeying meant trouble, but Daniel's heart did not care. He moved deeper into the wreckage, rifle in hand, his boots crunching against shattered stone. The colony had been beautiful once, he could tell. Strange towers of white stone rose toward the sky, though now many lay broken across the streets. Blue light flickered weakly from alien lanterns, cracked and dim. The people who had lived here were already fleeing, their ships carrying the lucky ones into orbit. But some had been left behind. Daniel could feel it in the silence between explosions. A faint cry led him to a half-collapsed building. The stone had crumbled inward, leaving a mound of rubble. Smoke curled from a broken roof, and Daniel could hear coughing within. He slung his rifle across his back and rushed to the debris, pulling aside a heavy beam with a grunt. His arms burned from the effort, but when the stone shifted, he saw her. She was small, no older than a child of 7 or 8 by human standards. Her skin had a pale silver tone, faintly glowing under the moonlight, though her face was streaked with ash. 2 wide eyes stared at him, bright and luminous like pools of crystal. Her thin frame trembled as she tried to lift herself, but her legs were pinned under a slab of stone. Daniel dropped to his knees, his voice soft. "It's okay. I've got you." The child flinched at the sound of his words, as if she had never heard a human voice before. Still, when Daniel reached toward her, she did not pull away. Instead, she extended a hand, small, shaking, and fragile. He gripped it gently, feeling the life in her tiny fingers. That simple touch lit something in his chest. She trusted him even though he was a stranger. He pressed his shoulder against the slab and pushed. Pain shot through his muscles, but slowly, inch by inch, the stone shifted. The girl let out a cry as her legs came free, but Daniel spoke quickly to calm her. "Hold on. You're going to be all right." Finally, the slab rolled aside, landing with a heavy thud. Daniel scooped the child into his arms. She weighed almost nothing, as if she were made of air. Her head rested against his shoulder, and he could hear her faint breathing. Behind him, the ruins groaned as another blast shook the colony. Daniel knew he had to move fast. He sprinted through the ruined streets, carrying her as carefully as if she were the most fragile thing in the universe. More explosions tore across the horizon. Fighters roared above, exchanging fire in the sky. Daniel ducked into the shadow of a fallen archway, his chest heaving. He looked down at the child. Her eyes were still open but weak. She whispered something in her own language, words he did not understand, but her tone carried gratitude. "I don't know what you're saying," Daniel said, his voice low. "But you're safe now." His calm crackled. "Daniel, where are you?" "We're leaving. You've got 30 seconds to get out of there." Daniel clenched his jaw. 30 seconds was not enough, but he spotted a group of aliens moving toward the last evacuation craft. They were tall figures, armored and strong, their faces marked with lines of worry. One of them called out in their tongue when he saw Daniel carrying the child. The soldier hurried forward, waving his free arm. "She's alive. She needs help." The aliens rushed to meet him. One of them, a woman with a long cloak, gasped and reached out. Daniel lowered the child into her arms, but for a moment the little girl did not let go of him. Her fingers clung to his uniform as if afraid to lose him. Daniel knelt, meeting her eyes. "It's okay. Go with them. You'll be safe." Slowly, the girl released his uniform, though her gaze did not leave him. Her eyes were filled with a depth he could not explain. Gratitude, trust, and something else, something lasting. The alien woman carried the child toward the ship. Daniel stepped back, watching as they disappeared into the vessel. The engines roared, lifting the craft into the smoke-filled sky. When it was gone, the silence fell heavy. Daniel stood alone among the ruins, his hands trembling. He had saved her. He did not know her name or her people, or why fate had put her in his path. But he knew he would never forget those eyes. The comm barked again, angry this time. "Daniel, report now." He turned and ran toward the extraction point. His boots hit the ground hard, but his mind was elsewhere. The war would go on. The missions would continue. But in his heart, the image of a small hand gripping his would remain forever. That night, as his unit lifted off from the colony, Daniel looked out the window of the shuttle. The world below was burning, yet somewhere on it a child was alive because he had chosen compassion over orders. He told himself he would probably never see her again. It had been a single act, a fleeting moment in the chaos of war. To him, it was only humanity. To her, it was salvation. And though Daniel did not know it, that one choice would shape the future in ways he could not imagine. The years passed, and the war that had once shaken the galaxy finally ended. Humanity returned to rebuilding its own worlds, and soldiers like Daniel faded into quieter lives. The battles became history lessons for younger generations, written in books and studied in classrooms. For Daniel, the war lived only in memory, heavy and sharp like old scars. He chose to live far from the busy cities. His home was a modest house at the edge of a forest on Earth, surrounded by tall pines and the constant sound of birds. He worked as a mechanic for small ships that passed through the nearby town. It was simple work, fixing broken engines, patching hulls, cleaning rust, but it gave him peace. After years of chaos, peace was the only thing he wanted. On quiet evenings, he would sit on his porch and watch the stars. He often wondered about the people he had met during the war. Most of them were gone, some lost to battle, others scattered across the galaxy. Sometimes his thoughts returned to the child he had saved on that burning colony. He had never known her name. He had never learned if she had survived the years that followed. But whenever he thought of her, he felt a strange warmth, as if that small act of kindness had been the most important thing he had ever done. 15 years had passed since that night. It was late one evening when the peace of his quiet life broke. Daniel was sitting outside, the forest dark except for the silver glow of the moon, when he heard a deep hum. At first he thought it was a storm rolling in, but the sound was too steady, too controlled. He stood frowning and scanned the sky. Then he saw it, a light cutting through the clouds, descending slowly, silently. His first thought was a transport or survey craft, but this ship was unlike anything he had seen before. Sleek, silver and curved like flowing water, it shimmered faintly as it landed in a clearing near his house. The hum grew louder, then softened to silence as the ship touched the ground. Daniel's training told him to grab his rifle, but his instincts held him still. He watched as a door in the side of the craft opened and a ramp extended to the grass. A figure stepped out. It was a woman. She was tall and graceful, her movements calm and steady. Her hair was dark, falling over her shoulders, and her skin carried a pale silver tone that glowed faintly in the moonlight. She had a soft, natural beauty, not painted or forced, but simple and striking. Her clothing was woven with patterns of silver and blue, unlike anything from Earth. Daniel stood frozen. He had seen many species during the war, but something about her presence was different. She did not look at him as a stranger might. She looked at him as if she had found exactly who she had come for. When she reached the bottom of the ramp, she spoke in clear English, her voice soft, yet certain. "Daniel." The sound of his name from her lips sent a shiver down his spine. He swallowed, his voice rough. "You know me?" She nodded. "I do." Her eyes were bright, luminous, and oddly familiar. She took a slow breath, as if preparing for something great. "I am Leora, daughter of the High Regent of Aloria. 15 years ago, on the night of fire, you saved me. I was the little girl trapped under stone." Daniel stared, his mind racing. The memory struck him with full force. The small hand gripping his, the luminous eyes staring up at him in fear and trust. Now those same eyes looked at him again. Older but unmistakable. He shook his head slowly, still in disbelief. "That was you?" "Yes," she said. "You saved my life when others turned away. You carried me from the ruins." "I have never forgotten." Daniel felt his chest tighten. For years he had wondered what became of her. Now she stood before him, grown, radiant, and strong. But before he could form another question, she stepped closer and spoke words that left him stunned. "I came here for you." "I came to wed you." The silence that followed seemed heavier than any explosion he had ever heard. Daniel blinked, sure he had misheard. "What?" Her gaze remained steady. On my world, life is sacred. When someone saves a child, especially one of noble blood, it creates a bond stronger than time. That bond is honored by union. From the day you saved me, I was bound to you. I have come to fulfill that bond. Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it again. He rubbed the back of his neck, trying to find words. Leora, I don't think humans see things that way. Saving you. He paused, shaking his head. It was just the right thing to do. You don't owe me anything. Her expression softened, but her voice remained firm. It is not debt. It is destiny. I have spent years learning your language, your world, your people. I came here by choice. Not because I must, but because I wish to. Daniel felt his heartbeat quicken. He had faced enemies, storms, and battles, but nothing had left him so unsure as this. You crossed the stars for me? Yes. Her voice carried no hesitation. Because you are the one who showed me what courage means. You are the one who held my hand when I was most afraid. That moment shaped my life, and now I am here not as a child but as a woman who is chosen. Daniel turned away, walking a few steps toward the trees. The cool air of the forest filled his lungs, but his thoughts were tangled. A part of him wanted to laugh at the impossibility. Another part felt the weight of her words, the sincerity in her eyes. He finally spoke, his tone quiet. Leora, I don't know if I can give you what you're asking. I'm just a mechanic now. I'm no hero, no leader. I'm just me. She stepped closer, her voice gentle. That is enough. It was not your rank or your strength that saved me. It was your heart. Her words struck deeper than he expected. For years, Daniel had carried doubts about his worth, wondering if the war had defined him, wondering if he had ever truly made a difference. Now standing before him was living proof that one choice had mattered more than he knew. The night grew quiet around them. The stars shone brightly above, and the silver ship gleamed faintly in the clearing. Daniel looked back at Leora, her face calm, her eyes unwavering. She was serious. She had traveled across light years, across cultures and traditions, to stand in front of him and speak her truth. Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. This is a lot to take in. I understand, she said softly. I do not expect your answer tonight, but I will stay. I will wait as long as it takes. Her words carried no pressure, only patience. She was offering him time, offering him space to understand. That simple kindness disarmed him more than any demand could have. Daniel finally nodded. All right. You can stay here at least until we figure this out. For the first time, Leora smiled. It was a gentle smile filled with relief and warmth. Thank you. As they walked back toward his small house, Daniel felt the weight of an invisible thread pulling them together. He did not know where this path would lead, but he could no longer deny that the bond between them was real. And though he would not admit it yet, a part of him already felt the beginning of something he had long believed was lost to him. Hope. The morning sun rose over the forest, painting the trees with gold. Daniel woke earlier than usual, unsettled by the memories of the night before. The silver ship still rested in the clearing, its smooth surface catching the light. It had not disappeared like a dream. It was real, and so was she. Leora stood outside, her silver-toned skin reflecting the sunlight in a soft glow. She was studying the earth with quiet curiosity. Her hands brushed across the grass as if she were memorizing its texture. She looked up when she heard him step outside. Good morning, she said. Her words were clear, though her accent gave them a gentle rhythm unlike his own. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. Morning. I still can't believe you're really here. She tilted her head, her dark hair falling lightly across her shoulders. I told you. I am here because I chose to be. Daniel motioned toward the porch. Come on, let's eat. You should try human breakfast. Inside the small house, he cooked simple food, eggs, toast, and fresh fruit from the town market. Leora watched every step, fascinated by the sound of the pan and the smell of food. When he placed the plate in front of her, she studied it carefully before taking a bite. Her eyes widened slightly. It is warm and comforting, Daniel chuckled. That's breakfast for you. They ate in silence for a while, but Daniel's thoughts turned heavy. He finally set down his fork. Leora, I need to understand something. On Earth, saving someone's life doesn't mean they have to marry you. It's just what we're supposed to do. Do you really believe you're bound to me because of that night? Leora set her fork down as well. Her expression grew serious. On my world, saving a child of the royal line is more than an act of kindness. It is a bond of spirit. We call it lumeris. It is rare, but when it happens, it must be honored. The one who saves becomes forever part of the one saved. That bond is fulfilled through union, so the life debt becomes life shared. Daniel leaned back in his chair, shaking his head slightly. That sounds heavy. To us, helping someone doesn't tie them to you forever. It's just the right thing to do. I didn't save you because I expected anything. I did it because you needed help. Her eyes softened. That is what makes it sacred. You did not save me for reward. You saved me because of who you are. That is why I chose to come. Daniel looked down at his hands. Her words unsettled him. Not because they sounded wrong, but because they sounded true to her. She believed every word. Later that day, Leora asked to see more of Earth. Daniel took her to the small town nearby. The people there were simple folk, used to travelers and merchants, but not to visitors from across the stars. When Leora walked beside Daniel down the main street, heads turned. Her silver skin caught the light and her regal bearing drew every eye. At the market, children stared openly. Leora knelt down to greet them, offering a small crystal from her pocket. It shimmered with soft colors, and the children gasped in wonder. Their laughter made her smile, and Daniel noticed how natural she seemed, as if she belonged anywhere kindness lived. But not everyone smiled. An older man muttered under his breath, "First the war, now this. We don't need aliens here." Daniel stiffened, but Leora did not react. Instead, she looked at Daniel calmly and said, "On my world, some would say the same of humans. Fear is easy. Trust takes strength." Her words lingered with him all the way home. That evening, they sat by the fire. Daniel leaned back in his chair, staring at the flames. "You know, Leora, even if I wanted to, I don't know how this would work. Humans and your people, we're different. Your traditions aren't ours." She sat across from him, her posture straight but her voice gentle. "That is why we must learn from each other. Tell me of human ways." So he did. He spoke of how humans see marriage as a choice made from love, not from duty or tradition. He explained that to him a bond meant growing together, not being bound by an old rule. Leora listened without interruption. Her luminous eyes reflected the firelight as she considered his words. "Then tell me this," she said softly. "Do you believe it is possible for love to grow from gratitude? From trust? From shared trials?" Daniel hesitated. "Maybe, but love can't be forced. It has to be chosen freely." She nodded slowly. "That is what I offer, a choice. I came because I wished to, not because I was ordered. And I do not demand your answer today." For a long moment, neither spoke. The fire crackled, filling the silence. Finally, Daniel sighed. "You're patient, I'll give you that." Her lips curved in a faint smile. "Patience is strength. I have waited 15 years already." The next days followed a rhythm. Daniel continued his work at the small repair shop, and Leora often came with him. She was curious about engines and tools, asking questions about every bolt and wire. She watched as Daniel fixed an old transport, her eyes bright with fascination. "You see problems as puzzles," she said once, as he tightened a panel. "That is why you could save me. You do not see obstacles, only solutions." Her words made him pause, surprised by the insight. He had never thought of himself that way. In return, Leora shared pieces of her world. She taught him simple words in her language, showing how meaning could change with the rise or fall of tone. She spoke of Eloria's twin moons and the great crystal rivers that glowed at night. She described how her people sang to guide ships across the stars, using harmonies that resonated with the universe itself. Listening to her, Daniel felt both humbled and intrigued. Her world was beautiful, but so far from his own. And yet, sitting beside her, he felt the distance shrink. Still, doubts lingered. One evening, as they walked in the forest, Daniel finally spoke his fear aloud. "Leora, what if this doesn't work? What if your people see me as unworthy? I'm no noble. I'm just a man with an old house and greasy hands from fixing engines." She stopped, turning to face him. Her expression was steady. "Worth is not given by birth or title. Worth is proven by action. You proved yours the night you carried me from fire. You prove it every day when you live with honesty." Her certainty was disarming. Daniel had spent years questioning himself, but she spoke as if his value was unquestionable. He looked at her, searching her face. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I do," she said simply. The forest was quiet, the night air cool around them. Daniel found himself meeting her eyes longer than before, caught by the calm strength within them. For the first time, he let himself wonder if what she believed might truly be possible. But before he could speak, a distant rumble shook the sky. They both looked up. Far above, lights moved in formation. Ships, not of Earth. Leora's expression tightened. "They are searching for me." Daniel's heart sank. Peace had been fragile, and now it seemed ready to shatter. He looked at her, realizing that the bond between them was not just about the past. It was about the choices they would make now together. The quiet days ended the night the ships appeared. Daniel stood in the clearing near his home, his eyes fixed on the sky. Distant lights flickered high above, too bright and too many to be simple traders or patrols. He counted at least 6 ships, their movements sharp, organized, and deliberate. They were searching. Beside him, Leora's face was calm, but her eyes betrayed concern. "They have found me." Daniel turned to her. "Your people?" She shook her head. "Not my family, rivals. There are factions within the council who oppose my father. They never trusted the bond with a human. If they can take me, they will twist my absence into scandal. They will say I abandoned my people, or worse, that you stole me." Daniel's stomach tightened. He had faced enemies before, but this was different. He was not a soldier anymore. He was one man with an old house and tools, not weapons. Still, he could not walk away. "What do they want?" "To weaken my family's rule," Leora said, "and to make humans appear dangerous. If they capture me, they will not let me return." The weight of her words struck hard. She had come here to him freely, with hope. Now that hope was in danger of being twisted into something dark. Daniel clenched his fists. "We can't let that happen." That night he prepared as best as he could. He dug out the emergency kit he had kept since his service days. A small blaster, a short-range scanner, and a comm device that still worked with human frequencies. It was little compared to starships, but it was something. Leora watched him quietly. "You should not risk yourself again. You already saved me once. You owe me nothing more." He looked up sharply. "That's not how this works. You're here because of me. That means it's my fight too." Her expression softened. "You are more stubborn than I remembered." Daniel gave a faint smile. "You were 7. I guess I haven't changed much." The next morning the ships drew closer. The hum of their engines echoed faintly over the forest, unsettling the birds and shaking the trees. Daniel and Leora stayed hidden in the shadows of the pines, watching. By midday, one of the ships broke from the group and descended toward the ground. It landed in a wide field beyond the town, its metallic hull gleaming under the sun. From its ramp, armored figures emerged, tall, stern, their faces hidden behind helmets. Daniel's scanner buzzed with readings. Armed, heavy weapons. He looked at Leora. "They're not here to talk." "No," she agreed. "They will search until they find me," and they did. For days, the armored patrols combed the forests and towns, asking questions, spreading fear. Rumors spread quickly. An alien princess was missing, and a human man was hiding her. Some townsfolk grew wary, whispering behind Daniel's back. Others simply looked away, afraid of becoming targets themselves. One evening, as Daniel returned from town with supplies, he found Leora waiting near the ship. Her hands were folded in front of her, her posture tense. "They will come here soon," she said. "It is only a matter of time." Daniel set down the supplies. "Then we need a plan." She hesitated, then said softly, "If I give myself up, they may leave you in peace." Daniel froze. "No, absolutely not." Her eyes met his, steady but sad. "I cannot let you be harmed because of me." He stepped closer, his voice firm. "And I can't let you be taken. I didn't risk everything 15 years ago just to hand you over now." For a long moment they stood in silence, the forest quiet around them. Finally Leora spoke, her tone carrying both resolve and sorrow. "Then we must face them together." That night Daniel barely slept. Memories of battle returned to him, the chaos, the fear, the weight of decisions. He had thought he had left it all behind. But as he watched Leora sleep peacefully by the fire, he realized some battles were worth returning to. The next day, the confrontation came. A squad of armored aliens marched into the clearing, weapons raised. Their leader, taller than the rest, stepped forward and removed his helmet. His features were sharp, his eyes cold. He looked from Daniel to Leora and sneered. "So it is true," he said. "The lost child of Aloria hides with a human." Leora stood tall, her voice steady. "I am not lost. I am where I choose to be." The leader's gaze hardened. "Your choice dishonors your bloodline. You will return with us." Daniel moved to stand beside her. She's not going anywhere, she doesn't want to. The soldiers raised their weapons. The air grew tense, heavy with the threat of violence. Leora lifted her chin, her voice sharp. If you fire on him, you fire on me. And if harm comes to me, my father will know who is to blame. For a moment, silence hung between them. The leader's eyes flicked between Daniel and Leora, calculating. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. You are a fool to bind yourself to a human. He will be your downfall. Daniel met his gaze without flinching. Maybe. But at least I won't be the kind of man who lets someone be taken without a fight. The leader scowled but motioned for his soldiers to lower their weapons. This is not over. Others will come. When they do, no words will protect you. With that, the squad withdrew, disappearing into the trees. Their ship lifted into the sky, joining the others. Daniel exhaled, tension leaving his shoulders. He turned to Leora. They're not giving up. No, she agreed quietly. They will keep coming. Daniel looked toward the horizon where the ships hovered like watchful eyes. His life of peace had been shattered, but he felt no regret. Protecting her mattered more than comfort, more than quiet. Leora placed a hand on his arm, her voice soft but certain. You have stood beside me again. Whatever comes, I will face it with you. Daniel met her gaze, and for the first time he let himself believe that their bond was more than tradition. It was trust. It was choice. The conflict was not over, but in that moment he felt ready, because 15 years ago he had saved a child. Now he stood with a woman who was willing to defy the stars for him, and he would not let her face that fight alone. The days after the confrontation were heavy with silence. Daniel and Leora both knew that the soldiers' retreat was not a victory. It was only a pause, a moment of breathing before the storm returned stronger. The ship still circled in the sky, their shadows passing over the fields and forests like silent predators. Daniel repaired the scanner every morning and studied the patterns of the enemy's patrols. He marked their routes on an old paper map, red ink cutting through the green of the valleys and rivers. Leora, on the other hand, spent long hours walking through the woods, standing by the riverbanks, and watching the stars at night. It was clear that she was thinking of something heavy, something she had not spoken aloud. Daniel noticed but did not press her. He had learned during his service that people sometimes needed silence more than questions. One evening, as the fire crackled in the small hearth, Leora finally broke the silence. My father will not ignore this any longer, she said. If he does not send help, the council will claim he has lost control. If he does send help, war may follow. Daniel looked up from the map. And you're the key to both outcomes. She nodded slowly. Yes, my presence here ties his hands. As long as I remain, they can use me against him. Daniel frowned. So what are you saying? That you need to go back? Her gaze lingered on the flames. I am saying that perhaps my choice is not only about me, perhaps it is about more than us. The words cut deep. Daniel wanted to argue, to tell her that she had already made her choice when she came to him. But he saw the weight in her eyes, the pressure of carrying not only her own fate but the balance of two civilizations. He could not deny that truth. Instead, he asked softly, And what do you want? For a long time, she was quiet. Then she turned to him. I want peace. I want freedom to choose without fear. But peace is not given, Daniel. It is built. Sometimes with sacrifice. Daniel closed his eyes. He had heard words like that before, from commanders who had sent men into danger for the sake of strategy. But this time it was different. This time it was someone he cared for. The next morning they set out together. Daniel carried the scanner, the blaster, and his determination. Leora carried only a cloak, her presence shining with quiet strength. They did not hide from the patrols this time. Instead, they walked toward the landing field where the rival faction's largest ship waited. As they approached, soldiers spotted them. Weapons were raised, orders shouted, but Leora lifted her hand with calm authority. I am Princess Leora of Eloria, she declared. Her voice carried across the clearing like a bell. Take me to your leader. The soldiers hesitated but obeyed. Soon Daniel and Leora stood before the same cold-eyed commander who had threatened them days before. His expression was sharp with victory. You finally understand your place, he said. You will come with us, and the human will be forgotten. Leora's eyes hardened. No, I will not return as your prisoner. I will return only to speak before the council, before my father, and before all who question my choice. The commander's mouth twisted. You do not command here. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady but low. You should listen to her. She's giving you a way out without bloodshed, the commander sneered. And if I refuse? Leora's gaze did not waver. Then you will be remembered as the man who defied the daughter of the High Sovereign. My people will not forgive. My father will not forgive. Your faction will be ruined by your arrogance. For the first time, the commander hesitated. Power was a fragile thing, built not only on strength but also on appearances. To be seen as the one who silenced the princess could backfire. Finally, he signaled to his soldiers. Very well. You will come with us to the council. But know this, once there, your words will not protect your human. Daniel felt the tension in his chest ease slightly. It was not safety, but it was a chance, and that was enough. The journey to Aloria was long, filled with silence and watchful eyes. The rival soldiers kept Daniel under close guard, treating him as little more than a trespasser. But Leora walked with her head high, every step carrying dignity. When the ship finally reached the grand halls of Aloria, the scale of the challenge became clear. The council chamber was vast, filled with towering figures in flowing garments, their eyes sharp with judgment. At the center sat Leora's father, the High Sovereign, his presence calm yet commanding. When Leora entered, the chamber filled with whispers. Some voices carried anger, others disbelief. The High Sovereign raised his hand and silence fell. His gaze softened as it met his daughter's. Leora, you have returned. She bowed her head slightly. Father, I have returned to speak the truth. The rival commander stepped forward quickly. She was found living in secret with a human. Her loyalty is in question. Her judgment is clouded. This bond dishonors her people and weakens our rule. Murmurs spread again. The High Sovereign's eyes narrowed, but he did not interrupt. Instead, he gestured for his daughter to speak. Leora's voice rang clear, steady. I was not taken. I was not hidden. I went freely. The human you speak of saved me as a child when no one else could. He gave me life when fate offered me none. For 15 years his memory guided me. I returned to him not out of weakness but out of choice. And I stand here now to say that my choice does not dishonor me. It defines me. Her words echoed across the chamber. Some counselors shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward with interest. She continued. If you fear him, it is not because of what he has done, but because of what he represents. A bond between our kind and theirs. Trust where there was once doubt. Strength where there was once division. You fear that bond because it proves we are not as different as you claim. The commander scowled, but Leora pressed on. I do not deny my bloodline. I am my father's daughter. But I will not live as a symbol locked in chains of tradition. I will live as one who chooses freely, and I choose to stand with the one who stood with me. The chamber erupted in voices, some shouting in anger, others in awe. The High Sovereign raised his hand once more, and silence fell again. His gaze moved from his daughter to Daniel, who stood quietly at the edge of the hall, out of place but unflinching. Finally, the Sovereign spoke. A choice has been made, and though it will divide us, it cannot be ignored. My daughter has spoken with truth, and I will honor her words. The council may question, they may protest, but they will not erase her will. Let it be known that the bond she has chosen is recognized. The rival commander's face twisted with fury. You would allow this insult? The Sovereign's eyes hardened. Enough. Leave my sight before your defiance becomes treason. The commander bowed stiffly, rage burning in his eyes, and left the chamber. Leora stepped closer to her father. Thank you. He looked at her with both pride and sorrow. You have chosen a hard path, my child. It will not be easy. But perhaps it is the path we need. Later, as the chamber emptied and the echoes faded, Daniel and Leora stood together on the balcony overlooking the shining city of Aloria. It's not over, Daniel said quietly. You've started something bigger than us. Leora nodded. Yes, but now it has begun, it cannot be undone, and I do not regret it. Daniel glanced at her, the weight of the long journey heavy on his shoulders. So what happens now? She smiled softly. Now we walk forward together. Whatever storms come, we face them as one. And for the first time since the ships had appeared in the sky above his quiet home, Daniel allowed himself to breathe without fear. The choice had been made, not only hers but his as well. They would not belong to one world or the other. They would belong to both.